Je m'appelle Barry Alexander Brown pour Road to Cinéma.
Barry Alexander Brown, bonjour. It's a great pleasure to meet you. You are an American film director and editor. You're best known for your collaborations with Spike Lee, our president of this Festival de Cannes of this amazing year. Are you enjoying the Festival de Cannes?
Oh yeah. I'm having a great time. I think it was the very first time I actually arrived on the opening day, but because Spike was the president, or is the president of the jury, he was like, "You got to be here," and so I was here from the very start, which was nice. And it was nice to see the whole presentation and all of them walking in and everything on stage, and Spike in his fuchsia suit. So, I mean, it was like, wow, man. He told me later that's his mother's favorite color. His mother who passed away when he was in college. And we made a film about that, Crooklyn. So I think it's in honor of his family.
You won the Grand Prix du Jury au Festival de Cannes with Spike Lee for Black Landsman 2 years ago. What did you feel?
Oh man, it was great. I mean, you're sitting there in that last night, you're not winning any awards. I hope this doesn't turn out to be a really bad night, and it turned out to be a great night. For Spike, this is really an important film festival. I mean, this is where he brought his very first film, She's Gotta Have It, and where it won the Prix du Jury. And I've been close to other filmmakers that this has been such an important film festival, like Mira Nair, who we came in '88 with Salam Bombay, and she won the Camera d'Or. We were young then and didn't expect much, and you're in this place that is so historic and has such a grand place in cinema, and then you become a part of it, and it's great.
Could you tell us more about the Lifetime Achivement Award that you're gonna receive for all your incredible work career?
I think there's 2 awards finally. One is a Lifetime Achievement Award, and then there's another award that honors the work that Spike and I have done. I guess it's really an award for the work I've done with Spike over all of these years, and I'm honored to get this. And quite frankly, in a funny way for me, I think it's humbling. You don't think about this stuff, and when somebody says they want to give it to you, to some extent you think, wow, am I old enough to be getting this? Am I done? Are they going to put me out into the pasture like the old horse? No. You also think, do I deserve it? I mean, you look back over the films. I've been lucky enough to be involved in a lot of great films, and films that have really stood the test of time. A film like Do the Right Thing, which is still so loved out there, and Malcolm X, and Salam Bombay, 25th Hour, and Inside Man, and Black Klansman, I think, is one of these films that's going to go on and on and on. And I hope my own film, Son of the South, is one of these movies that shows that it will have a very, very, very long life.
During your career, what is your best memories?
Well, it's always the surprises that are, I think, the best memories. Working on Do the Right Thing, wow, how long is that ago now? It's 30-some years ago. I mean, that was such a special project, right from the very beginning. And it was such a joy to work on it. And both Spike and I were very, very young at the time, just getting the first taste of a little bit of success, and still thinking of ourselves as, not very important and not very successful. And then that film was so well received. But it was also for me as an editor, really a fun project to work on. It was just fun. And because for one thing, it's a story, his script is so brilliant. One of the best scripts I've ever worked on, and it's sort of a perfect script because you think of it as dominoes. This one gets knocked down, that gets knocked to the other, and it goes all the way around. And that's the story. And for me, that's the perfect way of telling a story in a movie. It's organic. That one thing will knock something down that will lead you all the way to an end, as if this is the way you tell stories. And for all of us in our personal lives, we all tell stories. And most of our stories are like this, and our personal stories. They always have a great journey and a real reason to be told at the end. And I think Do the Right Thing was perfect that way.
Could you share a souvenir of Festival de Cannes? An amazing souvenir.
Yes, I'll tell two. One is actually more recent. My wife is French, and my brother-in-law is a photographer, and he was shooting in 1988 at Cannes. And only a few years ago, he came upon this whole bunch of photographs that he had printed from that festival. And he looked at it and he said, to his own wife, to Vern's sister, "Is this Barry?" You know? He'd taken a photograph of me looking into the camera on my way to see Salam Bombay in my tuxedo. And that's like kind of amazing that such a thing can happen. The other one is really Salam Bombay too. Because that was the very first time I was in Cannes in 1988. And I was sitting next to Mira when it premiered. And I was sitting next to her. And the film is playing, and it's doing very well with the audience, you could tell, right? But we were finishing the film in Paris. And we finished the film, and then I got invited right away, and we came. So nobody had seen this movie. Nobody. Literally nobody outside the filmmakers had seen this movie. The film ends and there is a wall of applause. The spotlight hits Mira. She's sitting next to me and she stands up. You never quite expect it. You hope for these things, but you don't expect them. About 8 years before that, I had my first film that I directed, a documentary called The War at Home. And it was the same thing. We've made this movie. It was about the anti-Vietnam War movement in the 60s, but we finished it in 1979. So 9 years before. I didn't really even consider myself a filmmaker. I just wanted to make a movie. You know, I wanted to be a filmmaker and nobody would hire me, so I hired myself and made this documentary. The film opened on the very first day that we got it out of the laboratory. So nobody had seen it. Nobody. And so I really didn't wonder, are people going to hang me after this film or beat me up or whatever? It's sort of a political film, right? And political films are dangerous in that respect because they can have all kinds of reactions to it. And it's very good and very bad. But what happened to Mira in 1988 happened to me in 1979, which is, I'm thinking, oh, I think this audience likes it. End of the movie, wall of applause. A wall, you're just hit with this wall of applause. And your life changes after that. For me, that was a dividing line. I don't know if for Mira, that was a dividing line for her here at Cannes, but I think it must be in your life. It's like everything before and then everything after, because your life changes after that, you know, because you have a movie now that takes off like a rocket and you can't keep up with it. And you feel as if you're kind of tied to this movie by a rope and it's going to the moon and you're just like that, being taken for a ride. And when that kind of success comes, you know, for Spike, it was She's Gotta Have It. For Mira, it was Salam Bombay. For me, it was The War at Home. You know, you're young and you've never been anywhere, done anything, and all of a sudden you're everywhere and you don't know what is about to happen.
Do you have any advice for a young woman or man who wants to start a career in the cinema industry?
Well, I mean, it really comes down to there's no pathway. I think we all know everybody here knows there is no path. Everybody has to make their own path. The strongest thing you can have in terms of wanting a career is to have it. For me, and I was pretty young when I made my first film, there wasn't anything else I wanted to do. And I knew even then, I knew as a teenager, there was nothing else. And everybody said, well, you can't do it. My father, I'm from Alabama. And you know what it is? I mean, Alabama is not a place where a lot of
opportunity, maybe?
Yeah, a lot of opportunities. More and more now. But when I was growing up, you know, and wanting to take off at 17 and be a filmmaker, my father said, have you ever met anybody who's even worked on a movie? Even worked on a movie? I said, nope, I've never met anybody. My father knew I'd never met anybody. And he said, well, how do you think, you know, people like us don't go out there and work in movies? We don't. I said, Dad, you know, I think real people work in movies, and I think they come from everywhere. And that's my advice, is that you have to understand, it better be something that you want to die for. People said, well, you know, you're not going to make it. And I said, well, if I don't make it, then you can bury me. And that's how strongly I felt about it. And Spike felt like that, too. You know, when I first met Spike, I met him 40 years ago this summer in Atlanta, Georgia. And he had the same love for it and the same absolute desire. This is what I gotta do. It can be torture if you feel this way, because at first, nobody wants you. And nobody thinks you can do anything. And that's across the board. We were finishing She's Gotta Have It in 1986. Didn't have enough money to finish it. And it was very little amount of money that we needed. $10,000, $15,000, nothing. I didn't have it, Spike didn't have it, you know? I mean, we were young and broke. Could not raise that money. And we would have screenings and people would say to both of us, there's no market for a movie like this. And Spike would say, you're wrong about this. He would say, you know, African Americans make up 11% of America, but a third of the movie-going audience is black. Yes, there's a market, and Hollywood isn't giving anything to that market. And people would say, you're naive. If that were true, Hollywood would be making these movies, because Hollywood isn't about racism. They only see the color green, and that's not true. There is endemic racism. I mean, there's racism. You know, I mean, we're all touched by it. None of us are beyond our own prejudices. Whatever the prejudices are, we all have prejudices. And even ones that we don't recognize and don't see and don't think we have, well, they're in there, and Hollywood had them. I've got to get back to that thing, is that when you're starting out and you're doing your first movies, everybody's going to tell you, you can't do it. And if you did do it, nobody wants to see it. What you're doing, nobody wants to see. They told Mira Nair that on Salam Bombay. They told me that on The War at Home. I was making a film about the 60s anti-Vietnam War movement 10 years after. And everybody said, nobody wants to hear about the anti-Vietnam War movement. They told Spike, nobody wants an all-black film. Mira, the film is in Hindi. How many big Hindi movies are there out in the world? None. So why do you think this is? Well, I got nominated for an Oscar for The War at Home. Spike changed the movie business, changed Hollywood, where She's Gotta Have It. And Mira won the Camera d'Or and got nominated for an Oscar for Salam Bombay. The probability that these people are wrong when they tell you their absolute knowledge, they don't know. They don't know. I don't know either. I don't know what the future is. If you believe in it and you gotta do it, then do it. Put everything into it and do it.
Thank you for your advice. Thank you for your time.
My long-winded advice, right?
Yeah.
Merci beaucoup.